What's up, everybody? I have been getting a lot of questions from early game players, from beginners. You know, I consider everything, like, until you get to level 50, beginner, right? Seriously. And then after at level 50, you're like, maybe still beginner, maybe even mid-game. Like, I know it doesn't seem, you're like, no, dude, level 50 is endgame. No, dude, it's not. I promise you it's not. Level 50 is still, when you hit level 50, it's just the beginning still. It's a it's an endless game. The game does not end. So, I wanted to talk about, I've been getting a lot of questions, right, from early game players that are like, what monsters do I use? What monsters do I keep? What monsters can I use as food? I don't know what I should be focusing on. I got all these different monsters, so I'm going to talk about some great. I've talked about these before. We're going to recap them again. I'm going to recap them a little bit differently because it's been like over a year since we really discussed this, I guess. The good natural 2 and 3 star monsters, and I know there's a lot of new players to the game. Sometimes we do like end game content and we're like, oh, we're doing Guardian Arena, and everyone's like, that's great for you, but how does that help me? I'm starting the game. I know you got your Nat 5 there, Jubagel, and you're using all of them with your crazy runes. That doesn't help me progress in the game, right? I mean, you know what I mean. Anyway. The people that the English is not their primary language, they're like, dude, I can't keep up with Jubagel. I can't keep, what is he even saying? Alright, so we're gonna talk about, like I said, we're gonna talk about some great 2 and 3 star monsters that you can use, and or that are not only that you can use early game, and that are going to grow with you, and you will be able to, if you invest in them now, you can still use them when you get to end game. They're still gonna be great. So it's not like a wasted investment of something you use for a little bit, and then you're like, okay, I'm done with it now, I'm at mid-game, and now this monster is useless, right? So here we go. Also, I want to mention, before we get started, no, we don't want to purchase that. If you go here, if you go to drop info, you can see all of these monsters that are drop info, that are. Oh, we see craft materials. When did these get there? I guess this is in the last update. They must have added those. But you can see all these monsters that drop from Garen Forest. You can see all these monsters that drop from Mount Size. Right? You can see all these monsters that drop from Kabir Ruins. So there's a lot of different monsters. You can get different natural 3-star monsters just by farming some of these different areas. And some of them are good, some of them are not. But anything that you see there, don't worry about feeding. You can feed all this stuff because you can just get it again easily. Even if you don't pull it from a scroll, you can get it from you can just keep grinding that level. Grind any of these levels and hide any runes, for example. And long enough, if you keep grinding long enough, you'll get a high elemental, you'll get a howl, you'll get an elemental, low elemental. So don't worry about any of those. Don't worry about feeding any of those. Same thing with this. Bernard is a great monster, that Wind Griffin. But you can feed him, and don't worry about it. You can get him again, right? So it's not the end of the world. It's not like, oh my god, I'll never get this monster again. I'm free to play. I'll never get him again. You'll get him again. Don't worry. So all these, and now we have. I was gonna say now we have with the new levels. They're not that. They've been around for like 2 years now. They're not that new, but we've got every single level here. So any of these you can get all these, right? All right. Second, so those don't worry about feeding those. If you're like, I need to skill something up, I need to level something up, don't worry about using those as food. After that, basically the 1-star monsters, with the exception of Devilmons, right? Devilmons are special. Devilmons you basically only feed to Nat 5s. You don't need to skill them, you don't need to level them up or anything. You don't need to make them 2 and 3 and 4 stars. You just use them as 1-star. You just feed them to your strongest, most powerful. Not the monster that you 6-starred or 5-starred or whatever. Monsters that are natural 5-star monsters. You use Devilmons for. Some 4-star monsters, but you don't ever skill up 3-star monsters with Devilmons because you're just gonna get other monsters that you can use as skill ups, right? Skill ups. When I say skill ups, I mean to evolve the skills, to make the skills better. Each skill, right? So the Devilmons are for basically for Nat 5s. Let's just say Nat 5s only, right? Either you fuse them or you'll get them, right? If you accumulate a lot, if you have like 30 Devilmons, you're like, damn boy, I got 30 Devilmons, I don't got a Nat 5. I got 40 Devilmons, I don't got a Nat 5. You know, then think about like, okay, maybe start feeding them to some of the stronger 4 stars that you've been using. but that's on a, like, you got to really think about that because they're rare. You only get one per week from the glory shop, so you got to be very careful who you feed them to. But with the exception of that, all the other 1-star monsters are all food. You know, you keep the light and dark ones because you never know if you're gonna get them again. Okay, so the dark ones, some of these dark ones are only available on Halloween. If you're wondering how to get some of them, so they're only available on Halloween. But a lot of these 2-stars are available in secret dungeons, so you can always get these again. Don't worry about feeding these. But like for example, if you get a Jolton, there's no secret dungeon for the Jolton, right? For the Jolton. So don't feed light and dark 3 stars. I wouldn't feed them, right? 3 stars or 4 stars, or of course 5 stars. Really try not to feed any light dark monsters. Another general rule of thumb. But for the most part, for the fire, water, wind, 1 and 2 star monsters, don't worry about feeding. For the 3-star monsters that are scenario drops, like him, all scenario drops, you can just get them from scenario. Don't worry about feeding those either. There's also some monsters that you can get from secret dungeons. I'm trying to remember which ones are secret dungeon monsters, but this is a secret dungeon monster as well. You can feed those. They're a little bit harder to get though, because you have to actually farm. First you have to open the secret dungeon, then you have to farm and be able to beat it enough to get all the pieces before it closes, and it closes an hour after it opens, right? So those are a little bit trickier. I would say try to feed those last. But you can feed those. You will eventually get them again. Also, you can get 3 stars out of unknown scrolls as well. So not to worry about that. Let's see. I want to cover all my bases first. So there we go. Now let's talk about some of the monsters that are really good. Really good monsters for beginners 2 and 3. I was gonna do a list of like top 10, but I'm like, there's more than 10. They're also they suit different roles, so they don't necessarily need to be. They don't necessarily work in a top 10 list. These are just monsters overall that you should consider pretty good for building. They're gonna be able to scale with you as time progresses. Anyway, so the first ones I want to talk about are defense buff monsters. Defense buff monsters are great for giant speed 10. They're great overall defense. The higher your defense is, the less your team takes damage. I was gonna say the more your team takes less damage. That doesn't make any sense. The less damage your team takes. So defense buffers are, for example, and Comptos actually gives you this now with the new what is this thing? The new challenges. Comptos actually gives you some of these monsters. I think in monster training or something. I don't know. Or oh no, it's these. They give you. No, they give you no. Okay, whatever. They'll give you Shannon and stuff like that, right? Bernard, another good monster. They will give you Shannon somewhere. Anyway, somewhere they give you Shannon. So Shannon's one of the first monsters I want to talk about. Shannon, where are you, Shannon? Where are you, Shannon? I know she's here. Now I don't have her built on my main, but I do have her built on my alts. Right? Because I'm like, I have other defense buffs on my main. I had her 5-starred for a while in the beginning of the game, and then I fed her because I have a lot of other stuff that does what she does, but for what she does, she's one of the best 2-stars in the game. Absolutely one of the best 2-stars in the game. She's got a 3-turn defense buff. She's got good base speed, 111 base speed. She's got a 3-turn defense buff, 3-turn attack power buff. She's got an AoE here. AoE decreases their attack speed, enemy's attack speed for 2 turns, with an 80% chance. Attack speed break is great, so it gives you a turn advantage, right? The more turns you can get in opposition to the enemy's turns, like if for every 2 turns you get 3, you're already to bonus, right? So speed buff for your team and speed break for your enemy's team is amazing. This is gonna be a 2-hour video, isn't it? Oh my god. Don't even get me started. And then the glancing hit is okay. It's not like, oh my god, game changing, but increased chance of the enemy landing a glancing hit, plus the defense buff is going to keep your team alive for a long time. So it's a great monster. She can easily be skilled up with 2-star monsters, which makes her awesome. You don't need to. I mean, think about this. When you get a Nat 5, okay, if you don't have any Devilmons saved up, then you gotta wait a while. You gotta wait maybe a month or two before you can even max that Nat 5. You can max the skills up. Unless it's like some crazy Nat 5 that has like 50,000 skill ups, then there's no that have 50,000. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. But a Nat 2 you could skill up in one day. You just pop some unknown scrolls. You see some more pixies in the magic shop. Bam, she's skilled up. She's max skills within one day. She's got greasy base speed. Great base speed. For Shannon, since she's a support monster, I would recommend high speed. You want good accuracy, but you also want her tanky. She's tanky-ish. You don't want her to die, right? You want decent defense and HP and accuracy on her, but you want to focus also on speed. You could rune her swift. This way she gets either the speed break as soon as possible, or the defense buff as soon as possible. Or you could rune her with despair because she's got an AoE on her second skill, which is going to be good for like waves of enemies on the way to bosses and dungeons, and it's going to be good for TOA, and it's going to be good for PvP as well. She could be ruined for. She could also be ruined for violent, but she really doesn't need violent. I mean, plus we're talking about early game here. We're talking about early game, so you're gonna be doing you're gonna be farming giants first. Giants is the first thing you want to tackle. So I would go despair or swift for Shannon, and you can go focus, you can go energy, you can go guard, you go well, not guard because guard's from you get guard runes from dragons anyway. But those are all I would say either swift or despair is what I would go for on Shannon. And and also focuses dragons too. Anyway, maybe energy. Go for energy. Whatever other two set is good, right? Just get good overall stats on the runes. Speed, HP, defense, accuracy, all good. Because two of her skills need accuracy. And skill her up. Very easy to skill up. Alright, next monster. Wow, this is already taking forever. Next monster. I'll try to make this a little bit faster. Jesus. Next monster I think is great defense buff. We're still talking about the defense buffers. She's got similar third skill. It's only for 2 turns, right? The reason I'm saying Megan maybe a little bit less than Shannon. I do like Megan, but the reason I'm saying Megan less than Shannon is Megan's a little bit harder to skill up for newer players because she requires 3 stars to be fed to her instead of natural 2 stars. And she also only does a 2-turn attack power buff and defense buff. She does increase the attack gauge as well of the of your team, but I would put Shannon a little bit. If you're new, I would put Shannon before Megan. She's gonna be easier to scale up. She's got better speed. It's just gonna be better for you. She's gonna have that constant defense buff on. Whereas Megan, without having skill ups, right? If you're early game, without having skill ups, you're gonna have that lapse in between when she can use her skills, and you're gonna be vulnerable without a defense buff. She also has the Toad Poison, which is nice against monsters that have beneficial effects like immunity, etc., etc. But it only removes 1 beneficial effect and prevents target from receiving beneficial effects for 1 turn. So it is a 1 turn, and then she's got the dot here. Again, I honestly think Shannon's a better version of Megan. For PvE player versus enemy, right? For dungeons, etc., etc. I really like Shannon. She's, like I said, she's built on all of my alt accounts. Another great defense buff monster. I mean, there's a lot of good defense buff monsters, right? A lot of them are 4 stars too. But defense buff is great, great. Where is he? I know you're hiding here somewhere. Is Talc. Now Talc is kind of a tank / defense buff. He's a tanky monster. He's got this passive. Decreases inflicted damage by half if the damage is less than 20% of my max HP. So he is a tank monster, but he also has a defense buff as well. He's got a heal plus a defense buff, which is great. He's got a provoke too. I would still go for, again, for the same reason, I think Shannon is the best pick for early game for a defense buffer. This is another guy, he needs 3-star monsters to skill him up. So unless you're getting lucky out of unknown scrolls and pulling a lot of these battle mammoths, or you keep pulling battle mammoths out of mystical scrolls, then you're not gonna be able to skill them up that fast. That's why I would say Shannon. Shannon for the defense buff, and she's got an AOE slow, man. She's got an AOE and it slows too. That's great. Really good. Great monster for dungeons. One of the best 2 stars in the game. Next we have some resurge, and well, we have some resurge, and I also put cleanse here. 2 totally different things, but basically, Konomiya is another great monster. Comtos gives them to you out of one of the missions too when you complete one of the missions. Onslaught, it's his stun. Not really. He's not really great for the stun. That's not where he's great. The resurge is amazing. The resurge is basically whatever monster needs to go next. If you're controlling it, if you're doing manual, like for PvE, for like you're doing arena, you can choose. You can make him really fast, and then put your nuker down next, or put your just another monster down next, and like maybe despair runes with another monster, and you just do. You get the first turn and an attack buff too. A lot of people do Konomiya with Lucian, like a really slow Lucian that does a ton of damage, and Konomiya with him, research that. In Guild Wars, you can do Konomiya and Kali. You get the first turn. You take your you basically attack buff your nuker, your damage dealing monster, and you one shot like one of the enemy's monsters or perhaps the whole team. It's a great skill. And then we have this Peace, removes all harmful effects on all allies, recovers HP by 15% each. First off, okay, he's got great base HP. When he of course gets 4, 5, 6 starred, right? When you evolve him, when you level him up, he's got good base HP. Especially for a 2-star, he's got really good base HP. He's going to be great in. He can also resurge himself if he needs to. He can keep resurging himself and then cleansing if he really needs to. He's easy to skill up. He's a 2-star, right? Amazingly easy to skill up. Peace is going to help you in basically everything. This guy, you can use him in Giants. He'll take the defense break off. You could use him in basically every dungeon, right? Because he's just going to give your other monsters turns if they need to. And he'll remove stuns, he'll remove bombs. I think the Hall of Fire is the bomb dungeon. It's been so long since I let any other dungeons move. I'm like, the Hall of Fire is the bomb one, right? Because they don't even, I'm too fast. Anyway, so, I mean, he'll take the dots off in dragons. He will be able to cleanse you in raids. You can use him in anything. He's really so flexible. You can use him in arena, you can use him in Guild Wars, you can use him in real-time arena, world arena. You can use him in raids, you can use him in the 3-team raids, not the Rift Beasts. You can use him in, what else? Giants, dragons, elemental dungeons. He's a great monster. He's all around great monster, not too easy to skill up. Alright. Another one, Tion, great monster. They give it to you in the beginning of the game, right? Easy to skill up. He's a nat 3, he's a natural 3-star, but you could just feed the other Garudas to him. It's perfect. Resurge is very strong. You'll get the hang of it after you start building some other monsters. You'll be like, oh, like when you finally learn how strong research is, you'll be like, oh my god, this is a great skill. And I believe it's reusable in 2 turns after you level it up. I just 6-starred this guy today. Let's go take a look. 2 turns when you skill it up, right? Reusable in 2 turns. And then this goes down to 5 turns. This is nice, it's flexible. Because it revives a dead ally and recovers the HP of all allies by 20% each. If there were no allies revived, so he's basically your first reviver, right? People are like, oh man, I need to get a Brian. You don't need to get a Brian, you have a Tion. Unless you fed him in the beginning of the game. I know some of you did. I did too, because people were like, oh, he's not that great. When I first started the game, people were like, oh, you can feed him. Regret it, but I got him again, thankfully. Thankfully, I got him. I just got lucky, pulled him out of a light dark scroll. I was pretty excited about it. But you don't need to use this necessarily to revive, but it's great that he has a reviver. He's got a dungeon leader skill. He's easily skilled up though. That's the beauty of him. He's a reviver. You get him for free at the beginning of the game. He can potentially help, like, people use Tion and Lucian. They just research Lucian and then AoE amputation magic. If you have Lucian, I know not everyone has Lucian. But, or high elementals are great. Resurge and then one shot with a high elemental because they ignore defense with their second skill. So first turn attack buff and nuke one shot is amazing. Amazing! So yeah, so this gets two less cooldowns if you just want to use it as a heal. Oh my god, Jubega. How do you say things so learn to speak better. Alright, now another monster that is kind of a cleanse resurge. I wanted to put Tion in here anyway, but I was really going for the cleanse, and the resurge generally is this bad boy. Alright, so I've soloed Dragon's B10 with him. With amazing, amazing, amazing runes, right? He needs like top tier runes to solo Dragon's B10. He can do it, but it's almost impossible. We've got the Breeze, not too exciting, whatever. Rapid's agility fills up an ally's attack bar to the max, increases the target's speed for 2 turns. Now this is cool. The reason this is cool is he can resurge himself, and then the passive comes into effect on his first turn, and then he resurges. He uses his Rapid's agility to resurge. I keep saying resurge to give himself another turn. Shouldn't say resurge. That's the actual skill of Konamiya, by the way. Gives himself another turn. His passive comes into effect again, and you can just keep cleansing and healing whoever, as many monsters as you need, right? So a lot of times I will use Rapid's agility on myself if I'm using this guy Rakuni for anything. But he's great. He's got passives. You can use him in World Arena. You can use him. The thing about it though is he's better. Some monsters are better the more monsters they have in their team. This guy's actually better the less monsters you bring in with him, because this only works on one unit, right? This only works on, and you build this guy for high speed, right? You build him high speed and tanky. Speed, he doesn't need accuracy, he just needs a lot of speed. Nemesis is good on him too. Gives him more, just the most turns possible. Lots of speed, either swift or violent. Violent Nemesis would be the ultimate build for him, really. But he really shines in World Arena now. People have been using him to counter a lot of teams. And also in Guild Wars, he's great in Guild Wars. And the less he kind of loses value. I know some of you are going to be like, oh, well, you could use him for raids because he's got the passive that's going to, you know, take the stuns off, take the speed break off, take the attack break off, but not really. He's less valuable in raids. I would not put him in raids, and he's got no debuffs for raids. But he's going to be a monster that you can use in World Arena and in Guild Wars as well. He's going to be a nice little monster. Again, the downside to him is you have to feed 3 stars to him. But at least he's not a 4-star or 5-star where it's going to be like takes you forever to skill him up. This guy's a great monster. Like I said, he can solo Dragon's B10. If you take him in with Vertiheal, it's going to be great. It's a great combination. It really depends on what else you take him in. He can be in a good Dragon's B10 team, but you gotta be kind of careful what you bring in with him. But I would say high speed, either violent or swift with super high speed. As high as you can get it. Is great. And another thing is, you can use this Rapid's agility, right? Fills up an ally's attack bar to the max, increases target's attack speed. This is kind of like the Konamiya skill, the second skill. I can't believe we are not even anywhere close to the end of this video, and it's been 22 minutes. So I said we could use like the resurge with Lucian, right? Do a lot of damage. You can use this with Theomars. It's going to increase his attack speed, which just makes him stronger. He does more damage because his damage is based on his attack speed. The same thing with like Chimeras, the same thing with Rakshasas, things like that. Alright, great cleanse monster. I would go for, if you're new to the game, I would probably go for Konamiya first just because he's easier to skill up. But we do have him. Another monster that I wanted to... Actually, that 4-star Harga is a great cleanser too. It's an AoE cleanse, but he's a 4-star. The beautiful thing about him is that you can just skill him up with 3 stars. You get lucky sometimes. Sometimes. I think this guy, I want to talk a little bit briefly about him. Again, another monster that you need 3 stars to max, but he does have cleanse. He's got a cleanse, he's got an attack gauge reduction. And he's got, this is also going to increase the attack bar of all allies. I think this guy's underrated. I really do. I think this guy's underrated. He's got this cleanse and attack gauge, did I say attack gauge reduction? Oh no, I did say attack gauge reduction. He's got the attack gauge reduction. Oh my god, calm down, Juvie. Calm down. And he's got the attack gauge increase while we cleanse too. I think this, I don't think that we are using him as much as he could be used. I think he's pretty damn cool. And I could see him being used more in a lot of things, like even World Arena too. I think he'd be good because you could build him. You could just build him as a big tank. He's got the provoke. He's got the AOE. There's a few different ways to build him, and I think he's actually not that bad. Again, I think I would recommend Konamiya, 2-star monster, really easy, very versatile for beginners. out of the cleanses slash resurges. Now we have some speed buffers. Okay, so the beauty of the speed buffers is, this is the most common one. The beauty of the speed buffers is, the more turns you get, the higher your speed is, the more turns you get. The more turns you get is basically gives you an advantage, gives you an edge. If you and the enemy both do the same amount of damage, if you both have 10,000 hit points and you do 1,000 damage to each other every time you attack, if your team moves 3 times for every 2 times they move, then you're just gonna win. You're gonna win. You're gonna do the 10,000 damage that it takes to kill them faster than they will kill you, right? So that's just math, right? So this guy's great. Also, if you have turn advantages, it's very important too. So he gives your team both turn advantage and extra turns, right? He's a turn multiplier as well. Vert Heal is a turn multiplier in addition to him, but Bernard is everyone in, like, I think everyone in the top 100, top 1,000, top 10,000 has, maybe not everyone, but almost like 99% of high level players have built Bernard, right? He's like one of he's the staple. You just build Bernard because that's what you do, because he's just that good. Gives you turn advantage and it's a turn multiplier. In addition to that, he will also attack break and defense break the enemy. So for bosses, for example, it's going to make them weaker, it's going to make their defense weaker, which means you do more damage to them, you kill them faster, and it's going to attack break them, which means that they're going to do less damage to you. So between this guy's attack break on the, like, for example, the giant, and the Shannon's defense buff on you, you're going to take way less damage. Alright, so you kind of want those combos. He is, you do skill him up with 3 stars, but like I said, you get him from a scenario drop. I said earlier, you get him from a scenario drop, so he's pretty easy to skill because you'll just keep getting him. He's also, the fire one is a secret dungeon. The fire one is good as well. Another one that you can use instead of Bernard. Why would anyone use anything instead of Bernard? He's pretty similar. He's got the same 3rd skill. He's got attack power, ally monsters with water tribute by 30% for the leader skill. He's got 1 less speed though. And then he's got, this is just gonna attack a lot, right? So if you want like a speedy, tanky, if you have like speedy runes and you want to go, let's say speed, defense, HP, that's your swift set. Like if you have two sets of runes that have the same speed, one is like speed, crit damage, attack, and one is like speed, defense, HP, maybe you put the speed, defense, HP ones on Bernard and the speed, crit damage, attack ones on Wayne. Because Wayne is a little bit more for attack. Bernard is a little bit more for... Bernard can do some pretty good damage though. I don't want to discount the damage that Bernard can do, because Bernard does damage based on speed, so if you put swift runes on him, speed, crit damage, attack, he's going to do pretty good damage. So don't discount that. But this guy also ignores defense here. So if you're going up against a fire team, this guy's going to be way more valuable. This sometimes just hits like crazy. This sometimes hits more than you possibly imagine. But really, it's all depends on element advantage. If you're going up against the fire team, this guy's better. If you're going up against the water team, Bernard's better, etc., etc. Also, Bernard is, remember, the defense break, the attack break is pretty important too. Another one. Where is this guy? This guy, Vigor. Okay, so Vigor's a little bit different. Vigor will give you the speed buff too. He won't buff your attack gauge. Unfortunate, but his speed buff, it's a speed buff and it's a heal too. So he's great utility monster. He's got a heal, he's got a speed buff. He's also got this multi-hit skill, which is going to be a defense break as well. So he does have some of the similar qualities to Bernard. He's got 115 base speed, which is more than the other ones, but you don't really need to build him to be just the fastest. You can if you want to, but you don't really have to. Beautiful thing about this guy for Giant Speed 10 is if you build him, he's an HP tank, right? So you want to build him like speed HP for utility, or you want to build him HP, crit damage HP if you want him to do a lot of damage. But he can also take a few hits and also dish out damage. The beautiful thing about him is you can defense break and then attack on top of that defense break, which the defense break is going to give you more damage, right, for your team. Or for whoever is hitting, right? You get the defense break on, and your monsters do more damage. Oh my god, I gotta say this. I gotta be a little bit better at explaining these things. And then he's got a heal block. I don't really care about a one-turn heal block. It's almost nothing. It's almost useless. But it's pretty good that he's a tanky monster and he does damage based on his HP. He's like the 3-star version of the Beast Monk or something like that, right? Kind of though. He's a tanky monster. He does like a defense break and he does like a heal too. But he's pretty useful. He's got this attack speed buff. And this guy's nice if you don't necessarily have to go first, if you don't need the boost like in arena, like for Bernard. This guy's actually pretty good in dungeons. He'll give your team, especially if you make him fast, he's got 115 base speed, so he's pretty awesome. He's a nice utility monster. Defense break in his kit. He's got enough damage to kill things, and he also speed buffs and heals. Great monster. Plus, you can do the secret dungeons for some of these guys, and they're not all available. Not all these werewolves are available in secret dungeons, but you can get some secret dungeons for them. And also, the fire one is a scenario drop as well. So he's kind of easy to skill up. Not as easy as a 2-star, but he's kind of easy to skill up. Another one is... Where is he? This guy, I think, is underrated too. So we have this, ignores defense. Now, the thing about this ignore defense and the Wayne ignore defense, because both of them have ignore defense, and then something like, for example, Elena's ignore defense. It's called a damage multiplier. Basically, it's a number that you multiply your attack and your crit damage by to see how much damage it actually does. So Elena can do like 40,000 damage with her damage multiplier, because this one has a high damage multiplier. For, let's say, Mao, where's Mao? We were just on him. So Mao, with this first skill, it doesn't have a very high damage multiplier. Because it does ignore defense, but it doesn't have a very high multiplier, so it's not going to do as much damage. But he's got the first skill ignore defense, that's not bad. Same thing with Wayne, his first skill ignores defense, but it's not a super high damage multiplier. Not like Elena, not like Kali. His second skill recovers HP of all allies, decreases the chance of being attacked with a critical hit. Recovery amount is proportional to the attack power, right? So he's got a heal, he's got a crit resist, right? Basically that's what it is. It's a critical hit resistance. So they still can take critical hits, but it's going to be less likely that they do. So that's kind of nice. It means they take less damage. It's kind of like a defense buff, but a little bit different. So you can have the crit resist buff, and you can have the defense buff, and they'll stack on top of each other, which is kind of nice. Then we have this swift attack increases attack bar. So it is an attack, and it's also going to increase the attack bar of all allies and increase the attack speed for 2 turns. He's got low base speed, not as high as the other ones. But he does have, like the werewolf, he does have a heal, he does have a speed buff as well. So that's pretty nice. But this is also an attack gauge buff and speed buff as well. So it's kind of more like Wayne's. He's more like Wayne. He's kind of like a mix between Vigor and Wayne, the werewolf and the bounty hunter, right? So he's actually not bad. I think he's underrated. I built one of him. He's pretty fun. I've used him in Dragon's B10. It's worked. So it's pretty fun. He's just a versatile monster. He's flexible and versatile. Next we have some healers. I think these are some of the, and we already talked about some monsters that have heals on them. Let's talk about some other ones. I think these are like must-haves. I don't think many people would disagree with that. Colleen is a great monster. Colleen is great for, she's got attack buff and a heal, right? Beautiful. She's a natural 2-star monster, which means it's easy to skill her up. All her sisters are natural 2-star monsters as well. Also, transmogrification is really cute for her. Super cute. So it's really easy to skill these up. She will block HP recovery, and she also decreases attack power. She is like a must-have for Necropolis, B10. Well, all Necropolis, really. All Necropolis, because she's got multi-hit skills. She's a healer with multi-hit skills. And also for raids. When you're at the point, you don't need to build her like early game. Like if you're level 20, you don't need to build her. But after you conquer Dragon's B10 and Giants B10 first, and then Dragon's B10, then think about like, okay, time to build her, time to build a Colleen. I almost called her Kali. Colleen, different monster. She's like almost a must-have for raids and Necropolis. There's other stuff you can use, but really she's kind of a staple monster for that. She's a 2-star, super easy to skill up. Not necessarily but I'm saying if you're early game, right, and you're like, maybe I need another healer, think about her because you're going to use her in late game anyway. So there's nothing wrong with building her. She would be a recommended one to build. The most funsies one that everyone always wants, Light Inugami. Oh my god, Light Inugami. Oh my god, Light Inugami. Oh my god. Bella. Bella is one of the best healers. I mean, she's kind of one of the best healers in the game. She's very flexible. She's very versatile. She's got this defense break here. You always need a defense break. Always. Defense break is always good. It's never bad, right? You got Seize, removes all beneficial effects on the target, which is great. And you have Mobilize, fills the attack bar of all allies and recovers their HP by 30%. Now you can use her in 2 different ways. You can even use her, like you can put her really, really fast, and you can make her the attack gauge buffer for your team, even if you don't necessarily need the heal right away. It's pretty sneaky. Pretty sneaky. I've seen some people do that in World Arena. I've seen some people do it. It's not too often right now, but I'm sure it will be soon. After I say this, like, oh, that's kind of sneaky. Because she's got 108 base speed, not bad base speed. Right? But she's got a heal, she's got a strip of all beneficial effects, which means like immunity, which means attack buff, defense buff. Like for example, if you're going into Giants, like Giants B10 and Dragons B10, everyone's got some kind of buff on the boss, right? Dragons B10 has the immunity, so you need to strip that off. Giants B10 has what? The defense buff and attack power buff, so you gotta strip that. It's got defense buff and attack power buff, or am I thinking of Giants B9? Anyway, so it's got both of those, so you gotta strip those off, so that the Giant both takes more damage and also does less damage to your team. Very important. Kind of like Megan, but I like this one better because it will strip all of the beneficial effects instead of just one. It doesn't block anything, but you don't necessarily always need to block it anyway, and sometimes they're getting ready to move anyway. Sometimes the boss is getting ready to move, and then blocking it, he doesn't matter, he's going to get the next turn anyway, so he's just going to move and take that block off. So, Bella's an amazing monster. Bella's a secret dungeon. People say, okay, I need the Darien secret. It's like old information now. I need Bella, I need Amon, I need Darien, all those secret dungeons so I can build my teams. You don't really need... You need Bella. Bella's great. You really should try to get Bella, absolutely. But you don't really need Darien and Amon. I'm sorry to say it, but do you see any high-level players or any even mid-game players still using Amon and Darien? Like, sometimes Darien in raids, sometimes Darien in, like, here and there. Amon is just sitting in everyone's storage collecting dust at this point. Because it's like... You need great runes to make Amon work, and by the time you can get the great runes, like, you have other stuff that you can use instead of Amon. It's just the Light Bear Man. It's nice because he heals every turn. He'll keep your team alive, but there's better monsters. Just build a Bella. Instead of taking your time trying to build those 2 monsters, build a Bella, skill up the Bella, focus on the Bella, spend the time that you take building 2, and put all of that energy into making Bella really good. Alright? That's my suggestion for that. Because Bella will be able to do a lot of things for you. A lot of things. And also, all the Inugamis, yeah, all the Inugamis are farmable, every single one. So you get him from Feynman, you get this one from, I'm trying to remember which level. You get him from Garen Far... No, you get him from Garen Farsh, you get him from, one of the other levels. And then these 2 are secret dungeons as well. Crow's kind of a fun monster, he's like Brandia a little bit. He's not a necessary monster, right? He's fun to use, but he's not a necessary monster. But those for healers, top-notch healers, they're gonna help you in a lot of stuff. Colleen for more late game, but Bella for early game. It's gonna be great. Then, I really would recommend some Speedbreaker monsters. Even if you don't use these ones, you can use other ones, right? So I think the best one for early game, for free-to-play, is the Spectra. I need a drink, hold on. 40 minutes of talking. Beautiful thing about Spectra. Awesome base speed, 126 base speed. At speed break and attack gauge reduction as well. great. Gives the other monsters less turns, which means that even if you don't have a speed buff for your team, then you'll still get more turns just because they'll get less, right? Special Assault, proportional to enemies' max HP, consumes 10% of your HP. Great for TOA 100, great for like the high level TOA bosses. Especially with this is great for the TOA bosses. I take him into TOA 100 and TOA hard 100 all the time. He's an amazing monster for that. You can also use him in Dragon's V10. He's amazing in Dragon's V10. Highly recommend Spectra. Built in with high speed. You could go speed, crit damage, attack. You could go speed, crit rate, attack. You could go speed, crit rate, HP. You could go... He's kind of flexible, but you want good speed on him. You want good accuracy on him. You could make him tankier, so he can take a hit or two. Especially for TOA hard, he needs to be kind of tanky. He can't be like squishy for TOA hard. He needs to have some tankiness. But remember, this is based on enemy max HP, so it's great for you to crit. You want to make sure you crit on this. Otherwise, you're just taking a lot more turns than you really need to. But I think if you're going to try to speedrun Dragon's B10, you can build him for early game Dragon's B10, make him a little bit tankier, and then as you try to make your Dragon's B10 faster, you can make him, you know, speed, crit damage, attack, speed, crit damage, accuracy, and it'll be good. But for TOA, he should have some HP on him so he doesn't die super easily. But he does need good speed. He gets the first turn, and before any of the enemies move, he not attack breaks, he speed breaks them. This way they get less turns, right? Turn advantage is huge. Turn advantage and turn multiplication, if you get 2 turns for their 1 turn, if you get 3 turns for the enemy's 1 turn, even better, right? Even better. Let's see. So Spectra's a great monster for that. Highly recommend him, because Bernard's just so easy to get. And then Spectra and his brother Khan, I believe it is, the water one, are both secret dungeon monsters. So easy to skill up Spectra to max. Not a 2-star, of course, you can't feed him 2 stars, but he's still easy to skill him up. Then what else do we have? I also want to give kind of an honorable mention. A lot of people don't really build these guys, but I think some of them are pretty cool, and I've used some of them before. And it's the Charger Sharks. The Charger Sharks are kind of, it's like some of the newer 3s. No, they've been out for forever. They've been out for forever. So we have AoE defense, not AoE defense break, sorry. This is a single target defense break, right? Multi-hit single target defense break. And then attacks on top of the defense break. This Incapacitate deals damage to all enemies. This is a AoE defense, oh my god. AoE attack, power, and speed break. Attack, power, and speed break. Similar to Spectra, but instead of decreasing the attack gauge as well, this is just going to decrease the attack speed, but also the attack power, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. I think this guy is underrated. He's one of my underrated monsters that I really enjoy. I've seen this guy used also. He's got this increases his critical rate too. On leader skill, speed leader skill. You can even, if you have a Chloe, if you have a Fire Epicon Priest, and you have her on Swift, or if you have another monster that needs to move first, you can use this attack speed buff here. Not attack speed buff, attack speed leader buff for fire monsters here. And then they all have attack speed. The attack speed buff, oh my god, I can't talk today. The attack speed leader skill is great. Just everywhere. It's just awesome. It's awesome. This one, I'm not as excited about this one. He's got the single target, right? Where the fire one has an AoE, and then this one continuous damage and heal, right? These guys are actually pretty decent farmers, but since everyone's got the Water Magic Knight anyway, you really don't need him necessarily. And then this one has just single target as well. I think the dark one is the other one that has, yeah, AoE speed break and attack power break. So that's not bad, but the fire one is at least, but the thing is, these guys are not farmable. So Spectra's gonna be a better choice, just because it's gonna be harder to get the sharks to, unless you just pull a lot of sharks to skill one of them up. But they're pretty fun monsters. They're pretty usable. Pretty usable monsters. But then again, every other monster is like, everything's usable somewhere, right? Everything's usable somewhere. Let's talk about tanks. Tanks work a little bit differently in this game than in other RPG style games. In other RPG style games, tanks are the monsters that go in the front and take the most of the damage that the enemies are dealing. In this game, there's no frontline, backline. Aside from like raids, there's frontline and backline, but for dungeons, there's no frontline, backline. So let's talk about some tanks, some tanky monsters, some HP tanks that are pretty decent. I don't suggest these being like the first monsters that you build, just because they're not gonna farm that fast, right? You want something that's gonna be able to progress you through the game quickly, instead of just, yeah, I can do it, but it's gonna take forever, right? So we have Rena. Rena's a good monster. You can still use her for arena defense in late game. You can even use her for offense, like if you're for slow offensive battles, like if the enemy's gonna try to nuke you, like speed nuke, if they have their arena defense for a speed nuke, you can even bring her in, and she'll just survive for forever with her passive. She's got a heal, she's got a passive, she can take a ton of damage. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, people used to build her as a farmer. I would not suggest that. I'm saying if you build her, you can use her late game, but she's a tanky monster. I'm giving you options for tanks, right? Giving you tanky options. Another one is, I said these werewolves. These werewolves are, not you, are pretty nice. The Vigor is, I think, the coolest one of the normal elements. You got the fire one, he's a decent fire tank. You got this guy, this wind werewolf. I really wouldn't suggest building them. I think Vigor is the best one for a water tank. And then we have Ashir is a great light tank. Jolton is a great dark tank. I think these guys, if you wind up pulling them, are the better werewolves. It's easy to scale them up, but these two are the best ones, and then Vigor. There's better stuff, I think, for fire and wind, but you do have those options if you really need to. I just wouldn't recommend it. What else? Oh, I didn't even have... They're not on the list, but I at least wanted to talk about them. Then we have another monster. He used to be really, really popular to use, Remagos. Again, this is something that's going to be really slow. It's not going to progress you very fast in the game. There's much better monsters for support and things like that. He'll be able to solo a lot of stuff. Same thing with his brothers. This guy's pretty fun. I think he's a little bit underrated. He's a natural 2-star. He's a natural 2-star. He's got this AoE, damage proportional to max HP. So he's a tank that does damage based on his max HP to all enemies. It doesn't have a strong multiplier, if I remember correctly, but it's still an AoE attack power break for a tank, which is not bad. Then we have counter blow, provokes all enemies, and counter attacks every time you receive damage for 3 turns. This is pretty good. I mean, this guy is not bad for TOA even. This guy's not bad for a natural 2-star monster. There's so many occasions where I was like, I really should build this guy. 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 And I really should build this guy, but I never do. Damn you. Then we have Dagora. All Dagora does is like come back when he dies. He does it. He's got this. He recovers his own HP and defense. He's not really that great. Ramagos is good. Ursha, I think. Also, the fact that these are 2-star monsters, they're really easy to build for tanks. You may not want to go the tanky route. You don't always need a tank. Tanks aren't going to get you progressed in dungeons any faster, but you might need them for here or there for like Guild Wars or something if you really need. They have their uses. And for arena defense sometimes can be annoying for low level. Lucia could be nice, but I still prefer Spectra for this risky dash. Just showing you guys some tanks. Gorgo, I think Gorgo and Ursha and Ramagos are the better ones, in my opinion. This charge is pretty nice too. But these are tanks. These are all 2-star monsters. The light one is a 3-star. Right? The light one and the water are the 3-stars, but I honestly think the 2-stars are the better ones. I think the 2-stars are the better ones. They're like baby versions of beast monks, kind of. Not really, but kinda, because they're tanks, right? They're tanks and they do damage based on HP. Based on their HP. Anyway, I know someone's gonna, in the comments, they're gonna be like, they're not anything like beast monks! Stupid! They're tanks that do damage based on their max HP. Anyway, what else do we have? Oh, we have some TOA crowd control monsters that I wanted to talk about. TOA crowd controls. This one, I think, is underrated. He came out, everyone had other stuff. They're like, I have other stuff. He's pretty cool, though. We've got this, attacks all enemies, disturbs their HP recovery for 2 turns. It's not the disturbed HP recovery that we're excited about, but he is also a water tank. He's got this continuous damage. Whatever, it is what it is. But for TOA, this guy's got a 35% chance to freeze the enemy for 1 turn with every attack. So you can put him on Swift, you can put him on I mean, Despair's got the AoE, but he already freezes. I think I would do him on like Swift or Violent for TOA and get a lot of turns, a lot of chances to freeze monsters. Also, Revenge is not bad since he's a tank. He can Revenge and freeze as well. I think he doesn't get a lot of love. He's a cool looking monster too. He's he's not new, but he's one of the newer monsters, and I think he's not that bad for TOA. There's this guy too. He's pretty decent for a dragon. He's decent for dragons, right? Because he does dots to the dragon every time he gets attacked, or does dots to anyone every time he's attacked, right? Like for bosses, dots are great for continuous damage. Is great for bosses. But it's basically his passive is what makes him great. All these guys have passives. They're not too bad, but I think this guy's fun for TOA. Another fun monster for TOA is... What else? What else? This guy. Now, I know some people are going to say like, oh, Drew Bagel, don't tell people to build these monsters, these 3 stars for TOA. They're never going to use these for other things other than TOA. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I know you guys in the comments below, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying they have AoE crowd control stuff. You can use them also in World Arena too. You can use them in things where you need to crowd control your enemies. They've got these freeze here. He's not that I think he's got some uses. I used him on my Asia account for a little while and he was pretty fun. Also, there's not a lot of great defensive monsters. There's a few. But keep that in mind if you're looking for crowd control for TOA, these 2 monsters. Aside from TOA, I really don't see too much reason to build them. But if you need something for TOA, if you don't have a lot of monsters, if you don't have 4 stars that are going to stun, or nat 5s that are going to stun like crazy things, then consider these. Like if you don't have a Tyrant or something, and you're getting pretty far, you're like, man, I gotta work on TOA. I need some crowd control. You don't have to 6-star them, but you could use them for a while. Let's see what else we have. But I would not recommend like putting a lot of time and effort into these guys. I'm just giving you options for crowd control. I'm giving you options for free-to-play, nat 2 3 stars, crowd control monsters, right? Also the Charger Sharks, like I said, the Charger Sharks have some of those AoEs. Some of them have AoEs. Another few monsters that are fun. I just wanted to give... Here's the thing, I wanted to give you guys some options for crowd control, because I said, okay, these guys are good for this, these guys are good for that. Let's talk about crowd control monsters. And when you see the other crowd control monsters, you're like, a lot of them are like, let's see. Like this, she's a good crowd control monster, she's a nat 4. What else is good? He's a good crowd control, he's a nat 5. He's a good crowd control, he's a nat 5. Like, yeah, there's a lot of good crowd control monsters. He's a good crowd control, he's a nat 4 as well. But there's not too much freeze monsters that are like freeze and stun, like AoE freeze stun monsters that are 3 stars. So that's what I hope you guys are understanding what I'm trying to say. Just giving you guys options for that. Not saying they're the best monsters in the game. I'm saying use them until you get some better stuff for crowd control. But I would recommend getting some kind of crowd control is great for TOA. AoE monsters that freeze and stun. So those are some free-to-play alternatives. There's other stuff, but we'll get there. There's like stuff that do dots and stuff like that, but we'll get there. What else? Oh, I wanted to talk about the Charger girls. Some of these girls. Okay. Beautiful thing. These girls are great for Necropolis. They've got multi-hit skills. This girl in particular is great for a lot of stuff. Great against bosses. She's got this. Inflicts continuous damage with each shot. 65% chance, but it goes up after you skill her up. You can get her from the guild shop, so you have to be in a guild to get her. Even if you're not in an OP guild, oh my god, still you can get these cowgirls. You get a random, you summon, I think it's 800 guild points, and then 200 per thing, and then you get a cowgirl and you can summon. You either get the water, wind, or fire one with the cowgirl, right? So this one is good for. This is good against bosses. Continuous damage, potentially 6, which is like it's basically a free-to-play Orochi, right? The Wind Ninja, which is a nat 4. So this is kind of crazy. We have this. It's an AOE. Additionally, if you land a critical hit, you get your attack gauge increased, right? and then your crit rate is increased by 30%. So you don't need a high crit rate for this. This is gonna buff your crit anyway, and then do damage, and then attack gauge increase as well. I would go high speed. If you're gonna use her in Necropolis, you don't need to worry as much about speed, but if you're gonna use her in the other dungeons, yes, I would still go high speed. You can definitely use her in Giant Speed 10. She's great. She's a great dot monster for Giant Speed 10. For Giant Speed 10 though, I would consider making her a little bit more tanky, right? Because you can just kill the giant with dots, right? Dots are just gonna tick away, and each one is gonna do 5% of his HP, which is great. So you can do that, and then you can do what else? He's gonna speed break. She is gonna speed break as well, but she does so many hits with her attacks that you kind of want her to be, because she can basically absorb with the giant's passive. She can absorb the hit, right? So she's gonna do a lot of attacks, and then the giants can be like, I'm gonna counter attack on you, little girl, and if she's tanky enough, she can survive. So I'd consider doing her a little bit tankier for that if you want to do her for Giant Speed 10. And then for Necropolis, you don't have to worry about her as much for that, speed as much for that. But I'd maybe do hybrid for her. Make sure she's got good accuracy though. And for Necropolis monsters are basically Violent Revenge. God, I need to stop talking so much. Necropolis monsters are Violent Revenge build, but Necropolis, guys, beginner players, Necropolis is late game, so don't worry about Necropolis yet. This is a great monster for Giant Speed 10, right? Great for Giant Speed 10. Can be used in some of the dragons, right? Can be used in some of the dragon stages. Not bad. The wind one, I don't really see. I mean, she's got this critical hits will decrease the target's attack bar. That's okay, right? But I don't know if she's going to be as beneficial as the water one, and then the fire one I think is a little bit underrated. She's got the speed break as well. They all have speed breaks, which another thing is great for Necropolis. Again, defeat Wild Dog. This is an AoE. Same thing. And then Explosive Bullet stuns all enemies with a 50% chance. So she's got double AoEs. Fire monster with double AoEs. Not bad. And this one stuns. So she's another one that's going to be good for TOA as well. You can put her on Despair. She's got high chance to stun some stuff. Oh my god, do I ever stop talking? Really though, do I ever stop talking? I'm trying to pack all this information in. Good monster for TOA. Can also be good for Necropolis B10 because she's got crowd control. But also for Necropolis, you would use her like Violent Revenge build. She's got a lot of multi-hit skills. Yeah, she's got the double AoEs. You ruin her for Violent Revenge for Necropolis, and then you ruin her for Despair maybe for TOA. And I think she's gonna be she could do some pretty good work. Double AoEs, man. I love double AoEs. Plus another thing is she could be good for secret dungeons for you too. So if you're trying to get like those different monsters out of secret dungeons, you can use her. She's got double AoEs. You're gonna clear the first few levels pretty fast. AoE skills are great for secret dungeons. So AoEs I would recommend for early game players because you're gonna be trying to get a lot of secret dungeon monsters. Oh my god. What else? So I want to also talk about. Oh my god, I'm getting ahead of myself. I want to also talk about. Yes. I want to talk about some Guild Wars monsters, some monsters that are really good, common monsters for Guild Wars. Also, this guy, if you see some reviews, he used to be widely used for farming. He can still be good. He can still be not bad. He's not the worst 3-star in the game. But when Comtuos gave everyone the Water Magic Knight, he kind of lost his value because you get the Water Magic Knight. She's got AoEs, where she's got a first skill AoE. She's got the defense break too. She's a great farmer. You really don't need Rauk for anything anymore as much. You could still build him. He's a fun monster, but he's kind of lost his value over the years. But if you see some guys that are like, oh, build Rauk, first monster, first 6-star, build Rauk, he's kind of lost value because of that. What else do we have? Oh, right, Guild Wars monsters, right? Because I said we wanted to do. We love some of these, or PvP, basically PvP monsters. And they can be great for everything. This girl, I love. This girl, I love. Okay, so I have mine, attack or damage attack. My Kali. She's a monster. She will benefit you probably even more late game than early game. She'll be good for early game, right? She can be a support monster. She increases attack power and attack speed. as well, which is great. An attack speed buffer, great monster. Also attack power, but she ignores defense. She buffs her own attack power, and then she ignores defense. And she just has so many skills that make sense. She's better than a lot of the 4-star monsters. Honestly, she's better than a lot of the first 4-star monsters. I think she's even better than some of the 5-star monsters. She is a great monster. I use her more than I use some of my Nat 5s. Seriously, more than I use many of my Nat 5s. She is that good. This defense, the more you progress through the game, the bigger defense is going to play a role in what you're doing. So she does a lot of damage to, for example, bosses in B10. Not really Giants B10. You could use her, but she's not going to crit as much, and she's going to take more damage because she's a squishy fire monster. I really wouldn't use her in Giants B10. I think I'm saying the wrong thing. I wouldn't use her in Giants B10, right? Would not. But she's great for Guild Wars. She's great for Arena as well. There's a couple different ways that you could use her, but definitely easy monster to get. You can just farm scenario and get her. You can easily skill her up. Like, for example, I was saying, you can get her from here, right there. And then you can skill her up with these, I think it's Tulane. Nope, it was not Tulane. It was not Tulane. Haideni's the one. You get the water one from there. The water one is good too. The wind one is not really that good. The wind one does not ignore defense. So the fire one gives herself invincibility and gives your whole team 2 different buffs in addition to ignoring defense with her second skill. The water one will ignore defense and also has a 2-turn freeze for a single monster, which is good. I think she's good for Guild Wars, is where I use her the most. And then the wind one just does not ignore defense, so she's really not as good. The light one's good too. But ignore defense, really good. It's gonna be more valuable the more you progress in the game. Because when you're early game, it's like no one really has, the monsters that you're facing don't have a lot of defense. But the higher you progress in the game, the more defense they have, the less damage you're gonna be doing on them. Like you might do 1,000 damage to a monster early game, and then late game, that monster, like at higher level, right? The same monster in like scenario, when you're farming scenario. If you're doing normal, you do 1,000 damage to that monster. If you're doing hell, the monster has higher defense, you're only doing like 200 damage to him. You're like, oh my god. But if you ignore defense, it does the same amount of damage no matter what level the monster is at. So that's great. So that is wonderful. It is wonderful. So Kali, definitely highly recommend that. What else? Another ignore defense monster, a great monster. He's kind of a tank and ignore defense monster at the same time. Copper. You gotta be careful. You want to put big damage, big defense on Copper as well. You can't really ignore defense on some monsters with him. Kalish is gonna ignore defense on anything. The fire high elemental. But this guy Copper, he's not gonna ignore defense on everything. He's just gonna ignore defense on things that are not super tanky defense monsters in the first place. So if you take him into, like for example, the Hall of Light B10, he's not going to ignore defense because the Hall of Light has got just tremendous base defense anyway, so he's never going to ignore defense on them. Whereas Kali and Elena will, because they have no stipulations on you need to have less than this much defense or more than this much. It doesn't matter. But for things that have high HP, for example, like HP tanks, he's going to be able to do a lot of damage to HP tanks. Great monster for early game. Also, you can make him a farmer too. He's gonna be he will stay alive pretty long. Like Kali can only take a couple hits, but this guy, since his damage scales based on defense, he can take a lot more hits before he dies. So he's pretty, especially with a defense buff. This guy can do crazy damage, like 60,000 damage. With the perfect setup, he can do like 60,000. It's just ridiculous. And he's gonna be great for Guild Wars. He's gonna be great late game too. What else? And then another one, really not too much of an early game pick necessarily, but if you want to build him early game, he will scale with you as well. This bulldozer guy. I'm going over ignore defense monsters, mostly for Guild War kind of things. Mostly for Guild War, for Arena, for PvP. So when you go up to different PvP things, or also like the Hall of Light is a big defense thing. So this guy's gonna ignore defense. Ignore defense plus his damage is based on his defense as well. There's other ones like Yaku. Yaku's not very reliable, also he's kind of squishy. Kali's squishy, but she brings a little bit more to the table. You know what I mean? I know I love Elena, but I didn't really want to mention Elena too much because she's not as good as Kali. Honestly, Kali's a little bit better. So, anyway, I think that's it. I think we talked enough. Oh my god, I can't even. What time? Oh my god, it's so late now. So I wanted to talk about good monsters for early game. I think I probably confused people way more than I wanted to. And there's probably way more questions than answers at this point. And I think there's going to be a lot of people in the comment section, this monster sucks, don't tell people to build this monster sucks. I think it's mostly on those 2 water monsters is what I'm going to say. People are like, oh, don't tell people to build those 2 water monsters. All I'm saying is crowd control for free to play. There's other things that are good for crowd control too, but I think they're a little bit underrated. They could take a couple hits, but maybe I think those are gonna be the ones people are like, if you do bagel, you're stupid. But I think those are all good monsters for early game. I hope that clears some stuff up for newer players. I don't know if it will, but I hope it does. I should have just done 15 videos that are like 3 minutes long each. I know I should have just done that, shouldn't I have? Alright guys, that's it for this video. Yeah. I really think this was way too much information all at once. But maybe it helps some people. Alright guys, maybe it helps some new players. Hope you enjoyed this. I will see you guys as always in the next video.